Welcome to the first episode of the FinPro podcast. My name is Sarge Amuzu, and I'm the founder and CEO of FinPro. FinPro is predictive financials for startups. Startups, small businesses, and product managers in large enterprises use our technology to forecast financials. They can use industry data to forecast multiple scenarios and import actuals for intelligence projections. I'm really excited about our first episode because I have an amazing guest with me today who can tell more about himself than even I can. But just to give you an idea of his background, he's worked at companies like Adobe. He's also been at companies like Amazon. He's behind Alexa. He's also behind product like Google Assistant. And so I'm excited about this episode because we'll have a wealth of knowledge the audience will really enjoy and take in some of the amazing gems that Akshay has to share with us. So without further ado, our first guest for this very first podcast, Akshay Goel. Akshay, thanks for joining me, and I'm really excited to have you on board here. You've had a breadth of experience in the product management arena at companies like Amazon, Google, and Adobe. And I want to start by letting you tell us about yourself, your background.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Serge, and great to be here. So about myself, yes, I started out as a software developer with Adobe and had ton of fun there. I've worked on some very popular products that most people know about. So Adobe Reader, Adobe Photoshop, so contributed to the growth of those products, and then got my MBA from the Indian School of Business in India, and transitioned to product management, starting with Amazon. And I've been leading product management for about 7 years now, and recently started at Google. So I spent a few years at Amazon, and now I'm part of the Google Assistant team.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I think working on a product like Amazon Alexa is fascinating. What can you tell us about your involvement in the product? What are some of the features that you've built? And I think our audience knows how Amazon Alexa is changing the world. But from your own perspective, how has your contribution affected the product and how it changes the world?
Sure, absolutely. I think as most folks know, and use as well, Alexa helps us do multiple tasks, ranging from setting alarms, playing music, controlling, your smart home, so a ton of stuff just by the access of your voice. And my role particularly was in the ML and AI platform team. So this is the platform that powers these multiple features across different verticals and helps us get features that are developed by these different teams to users faster and with a higher quality, that users can rely on. So the platform essentially powers supervised ML models. So this is models that use training data for them to be, improving on precision and recall. And my team and I, helped in the development of this platform.
That's exciting. As a product manager, first of all, it's an organizational role, and you're tasked with creating the product strategy and leading the team in order to deliver the finished product. How's the process like at Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon has a very user-centric or customer-obsessed way of thinking about products. So, as you said, definitely product manager role tends to be extremely cross-functional. So a product manager works with multiple functions, including software development, design, marketing, PR, legal, a bunch of different functions. And typically the way it starts is a product manager, or in fact, this could be anyone thinking about a product. They start with articulating what is the user need we are trying to meet with this product, and what does the long-term vision look like. So internally, this is called a press release, and it's meant to be in a way that, hey, if somebody was writing, let's say, a newspaper article about this product tomorrow, what would that read like? So as a product manager, you try to write it on your own, and then organize the team and different functions towards that vision of what you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's fascinating. This concept of press release, is that unique to Google? Because it sounds fascinating to me that you can think of it as a press release, so that in a way, you're already ahead of the market of what you want your product to sound like to the consumer, or if it's enterprise, the enterprise, or whichever customer segment you're addressing. So this is a fascinating approach to me. Is it specific to Google?
Yeah, I came across it only at Amazon, but I think now I've read a few articles where multiple other startups are starting to take this approach as well. They're trying to assimilate that into their culture too. But yes, definitely something very ingrained into the Amazon culture around being able to clearly articulate the long-term vision. Who are your users that you want to serve, and what are the key needs you want to target, and how will you do that? So very forward-looking way of aligning everybody to that vision.
Yeah, and thanks. You're right. It's Amazon. I have Google on my notes here, but yes, Amazon. Yeah, I mean, Amazon is a massive organization, right? I mean, you have to think of different product segments to serve customers, and you have experience at three of the biggest companies in the world. And I'm sure that that experience transcends across your roles that you take on, right? And so how do you get stakeholder buy-in when you think about a new product at a company like Amazon, or your current role at Google?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and I think as a PM, it's a lot about both looking at it from multiple angles. So I would say three primary areas that PM needs to look at, like from a strategy point of view. Definitely one is from a user point of view, what is the value you're going to provide to the user, and can you make a case for that? Yes, this is a big problem for users. It's a widespread problem, and if we solve this problem, then we impact their lives in a meaningful way, right? So definitely that user empathy needs to be a part of the proposal. The second piece definitely is around from a company point of view. So companies have, or in fact, different organizations have articulated missions and things that they stand for. So you need to make sure that your proposal and the idea aligns with that company or organization mission. Definitely, there could be some great ideas that are impactful for users, but if they don't align well with the rest of the organization, the mission and where the organization wants to go, then it can be a hard sell, right? So that definitely helps. And I think the third piece is more from sustainability and from a financial feasibility kind of point of view. Being data driven and being able to support your arguments with hey, this is the size of the problem, and this is how this is beneficial for the company if we invest in this initiative. I think tying those three aspects together into a proposal helps get stakeholders aligned.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what what got you excited about becoming a product manager?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I was, even when I was a developer, I was always, sort of thinking about, hey, what can I just build this quick prototype and show it to my manager or the PM and see if this works. I was developing iOS apps on the side, just on my own. So I always sort of had that feeling of being closer to the user in terms of what needs are. And just even though I was terrible at design myself, but just quickly putting something together that that works, is more tangible, and I can show it to someone. So those were, I think, the seeds of maybe curiosity and being closer to the user needs, and felt that maybe a PM role does this full time, so seemed like an exciting career path.
Yeah, that's great. And so your background, you're from India, and how did you manage to get into organizations such as Adobe, then follow up that up with Amazon and now Google?
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely, I was born and brought up in New Delhi, India. So I did my undergrad there in computer science, and I think similar to, I think the for most of the multinationals, the interview processes, etc., tend to be fairly similar across countries. So yes, and a lot of the companies in India also visit campuses as part of the placement initiatives. So at both my undergrad school as well as my business school, companies have placement drives, and students sort of appear for them and take interviews. So in both cases, yes, appeared for interviews with both Adobe and Amazon, and uh, was lucky to get through.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say it's it's unusual for sure, as in you have to have a certain type of drive, right? To want to be in product, want to innovate. And as I was doing my research, before we hop on this podcast, I was fascinated by the fact that, I mean, you have an MBA. How does that contribute to your expertise now as a product manager?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And would it be something that you recommend other PMs, right, who are looking to get into the field?
Yeah, I think first to talk about a little bit on the value of the MBA and its relevance to product management. So I think definitely based on, and MBAs also can be extremely varied based on what specialization you take, and like your majors and minors, etc. Right? So can be extremely varied based on what a student picks. But definitely, I think an MBA helped me personally to get a more diverse view of different functions that are relevant to serving users. So for example, coming from a software development background, I knew very little or nothing about market research, about product strategy, about organizational dynamics of working with other folks, etc. Right? So all of these, I think my MBA definitely helped me give visibility into, and also, some um, extremely diverse peer learning, right? So in an engineering school, everybody is an engineer, and might have a very logical and somewhat similar way of approaching problems. But at a business school, you have people from accounting background, finance, marketing, engineering, different backgrounds. So it was fascinating to me that how my how my peer group approached a problem, and it would sort of give me a completely new way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think diversifying the view of approaching a problem is something that my MBA really helped with.
That's phenomenal. So, Amazon Alexa is in millions of homes. And you may have talked about this a little bit early on or mentioned a little bit, but how do you, or what tools do you use, right, to intake data that can help you fine tune Amazon Alexa, right? I mean, again, it's in all of our homes, right? And so what pieces of data help you to continuously improve the product, right? So that when I go asking Amazon to play, Machine Gun Kelly, or, give me an example of an artist, what tools do you use and help you, right, build such feature sets that help millions of users when they're talking to Alexa?
Right, right. So I think there are multiple levels at which sort of user research or user feedback happens, right? So one definitely is in the form of when we are thinking about new features or new capabilities that don't exist today. There's a ton of once there is an idea, there's a ton of research with users about whether this, we try to validate and prove to some extent whether this will be useful to users or not, so there are surveys, there are studies, there are focus groups. So we try to figure out, is this a valuable problem to solve for users? So that's sort of at the initial concept kind of stage. And then as we come up with some concepts to solve those problems, we continue to iterate with users. So let's say, we'll come up with multiple design options, and we'll show them to users and say, hey, can you try doing this for me? And the user will try it. Sometimes they'll succeed, sometimes they'll not. And so we try to figure out, is this making sense to users or not, and try to pick the most user-friendly option out of those. So that's at the solution stage. And then I think once the feature is launched, there's a complete sort of cycle of getting user signals or feedback from different sources, right? So for example, to take your example, let's say you asked Alexa to play some music, and just after asking that, you say, hey, stop, or you turn it off, right? So that's a good signal for us to say, hey, maybe Alexa did not do what the user wanted to do, right? So we look at that kind of a signal. Similarly, there are you can provide feedback within the app to say, hey, this did not work or that did not work. So combining these multiple signals together, there is a continuous improvement process to identify where are the biggest issues or failures happening, and then how can we fix them.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So, and as we talk about product management, I'm of the belief that I'm of the belief that every organization thrives based on the product that they put out in the market, right? Whether you're a small business, you're providing a service, right? Or if you're a product company, your service is the product. And so, you also mentioned this briefly early on, but how do you get buy-in from stakeholders, such as, stakeholders, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think as a PM, there are typically, several stakeholders you need to align in order to, achieve the vision that you wanna go towards, right? So there are engineering partners, design partners, leaders of the organization, who would typically, give feedback around, the right long-term direction, and whether how should this initiative be resourced compared to other items, right? So I think each stakeholders. My personal approach is, individuals, and leaders, they would come with their own way of looking at things, and it definitely is a great thing to sort of get a diverse set of views, but at the same time it's also a PM's job to keep moving things forward, right? So it's their job to ship that product and put it in the hands of users. So a few things that I definitely try to do, one is I try to lay out, sort of some product principles, or kind of decision making uh, techniques upfront in the proposal, right? So there are always, trade-offs to be made. Let's say, you could say, hey, do we focus on growth versus engagement? Or hey, monetization comes later or sooner, right? So I do take a stab at putting in some product principles that that I want folks to align on, so that they have a decision making framework with them. So instead of people evaluating the proposal from a completely different lens, they can use those principles to evaluate it. That's one. And I think the other piece I definitely try to do is I try to deeply understand where the stakeholder feedback is coming from, what's driving it. And a lot of the times it turns out that maybe they're just looking for more data, and if they're not truly opposed to the proposal or anything, they just want more details, right? So I think I do try to sort of look at the individual feedback or concern, and is that feasible to meet or not, and then try to get them in. And lastly, and this is this could be an effective tool to get things moving if it comes to that, is if there's a stalemate and folks cannot agree on something, then definitely escalating and giving a recommended option to leaders and saying, hey, let's break the tie.
Yeah, that dives into my next question, which is, you've led multi-geographical teams. What has enabled you to work with teams in different time zone, and essentially geographies to achieve product goals?
Right. Yeah, I think definitely I've been part of several multicultural, multi-region teams. And, apart from sort of time zone overlap kind of coordination challenges, I think those are ones to be solved anyhow. But as a product manager, I feel putting things on paper really helps in getting people on the same page.
Yeah, for sure. I would imagine it makes sure that even when someone is not able to join a meeting, and it for a specific reason, they can quickly follow up and catch up on what the conversation was about, because it was documented. Correct.
Exactly right. So I think one of the key things that is challenging with different time zones and in different geographies is giving everybody a voice on the proposal, right? So because what might happen otherwise is, hey, most of the folks who are in the same time zone, they got together, they discussed, and other folks might feel left out. So that to me is the key problem to be solved in a multi regional setting. And I think having the plan or the proposal clearly documented, and then giving all the stakeholders, whichever geography they are in, a forum to provide feedback on that proposal. It gives a, sort of goes a long way, both from a trust point of view. So, you are able to get buy-in and trust from multiple stakeholders, and also from a point of view of getting the project along if you need their help to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, I want to shift gear to your current role, which is Google, where you're working on Google Assistant. So Google Assistant is a fairly nascent product from Google. And, tell us about your involvement with Google Assistant.
Yeah. So on Google Assistant, I lead the music and video playback, primarily related to YouTube and YouTube Music. So, and this is across multiple device types. So this could be the Google Home mini speaker, or this could be the Google Assistant on your phone, or this could be, the smart display, the Google Hub on your kitchen counter. So across all of these devices, the music and videos area is what I look at.
Yeah, and for some of us who don't use all of these devices or services, right? Because I mean, we're now inundated by multiple assistants. I mean, we have Apple HomePod, we have Siri, right? Alexa, Google Assistant. Tell us what's the difference between Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa?
I think a lot of in terms of capabilities and features, I think there is a lot of similarity between the two products. So, as you said, Alexa had a bit of a head start compared to Assistant. So there are some use cases where it has a rich feature set. On the Google Assistant front, I think what Google leverages its strength for is being countries and languages. So you'll find that Google Assistant is available in a lot of different languages. So users that speak that language can use the assistant, and definitely goes without saying that there's a pretty strong integration with the rest of the Google product suite, like YouTube, Google Photos, Search, and the ton of Google products that we all use.
Yeah, and I remember that I watching that announcement of Google Assistant, where part of the demo was, Google Assistant book a barbershop appointment for me, and it was able to do that, in real time. How do you, when are you thinking about a product such as that has to make decisions in real time, right? How do you interface the product with the end user, such as, actually, in this case, there are two end users, right? There's the person who's given the command, and then there's the merchant who's got to be able to make their availability available so that, Google Assistant can make that, appointment for me. One thing, one question I have here is, what part of that process, are you involved with? How does that tie into video and music for YouTube, if at all?
Yeah. So that's a team within Assistant, and it was showcased during the Google I/O event as well. So that's a team within the Assistant called Duplex, and focused on making the assistant more intelligent, essentially, right? So the more human-like intelligence it has, both in terms of understanding speech, and we all know speech is extremely nuanced, right? So there are different accents, there are different ways to say things, the same thing. There are, pauses mean something, hmms and ums mean something, right? So that team is focused on making assistant, more intelligent. And the way the music and the media team works with that is, um, it helps as a more horizontal solution that improves our understanding of music related queries. So the more improvements we drive on speech understanding, the better we are able to serve music requests. So
Yeah,
that's how the two tie together.
yeah, that's amazing. So, for our audience listening, right? I think, what's a piece of advice for the up and coming product managers, or even the well established ones like yourself? What is your piece of advice for staying innovative during the product development and management process?
Yeah, I think for staying innovative, a lot of the times, and this we all fall into this prey, sometime or the other. But staying focused on the user need or the problem instead of the idea can really help, take a step back. So I think if we are balanced in our approach, sort of being passionate about solving that problem versus being married to a cool idea that I have, uh, that can go a long way in staying focused on the user need. So I think anyone like who's upcoming, I would definitely suggest about being extremely crisp on who your users are and what problem you're trying to solve for them, instead of starting from a cool idea and then trying to find a market for it. I think that can keep you driven until you have solved that problem, and like you keep innovating to solve it in a better way.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Wow, such an amazing gem there for our listeners. And actually, before we wrap on this episode, I will say, as I was doing research on you prior to us getting on, and I will say, first of all, we're all diverse individuals on this podcast, and the world is increasingly diverse. And one thing I noticed, doing that research is that you have a passion for cooking mean Indian food, and I love Indian food. And so, what is that? What is that? And I think this is where I ask you about the fun aspect of Indian food for you. But what is that one dish that Akshay loves to make?
Oh yeah, I think I do enjoy cooking. I don't know if it goes well or not when it comes out, but I definitely enjoy it, and I really like shahi paneer. So it's cottage cheese in a tomato gravy, and it's one of the favorites for me.
That's amazing. Excellent. Akshay, thanks so much for taking the time to join me on this podcast. I'm very excited because it's the first one, and I feel like you've shared such an amazing gem with our audience. And I can't wait to see what's next for you at Google in your new role. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Serge. This was great. Thanks for chatting.
For sure.